please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Then let's get chatting about the big buzzers at noon. This is our Movers and Shakers segment with all our colleagues, and Dr. Reddy's is leading the charts today, a gain of close to about 2.5%. Ekta, the news?
Well, actually, it is negative news which has come in of possibility for Dr. Reddy's. Dr. Reddy's is probably rising in anticipation that we're going to hear about the Suboxone litigation eventually by the end of the week. So that's the reason why we're probably seeing that sort of optimism come through. But separately, for what has happened is that Citi Global has come out with a report, and they've mentioned that Mylan has taken around a 60% cut in one of the key drugs that they have, which is Copaxone 40 mg. So that, remember, a drug is used for multiple sclerosis, and interestingly, it was launched with Natco as a partner in the US markets at the end of 2017. So everybody is a little perplexed that, there's around a 60% cut that Mylan has taken for this particular price, for this particular drug. They already have around 15 to 17% market share. It will probably impact Natco to a certain extent, but it's more of a negative read-through for Dr. Reddy's because they are still to launch the drug. And now the estimates are that the market could be around $1 billion in 2019, and this compares to around $4 billion earlier. Why is it shrinking to $1 billion? It's because of these aggressive price cuts. So by the time any other player enters the market would have already shrunk, and that's probably what the fear would be eventually. But I think the street is brushing those concerns off right now.
Okay, so for now it seems to be focusing on perhaps impending positives, not so much worrying about this one particular drug. Thanks, Ekta, for explaining that to us. Let's move to AU Small Finance Bank. That stock's down 4%. It's been down actually since the morning. What's troubling AU? Abhishek?
Well, Surabhi, to begin with, the pre-IPO lock-in shares have come out of the moratorium period. So that ended on 7th July 2018. The total of 17 crore shares have come out of the pre-IPO lock-in, of which 9 crores belong to promoters and 8 crore belongs to non-promoters. So the promoters won't be selling because they recently raised capital from Temasek Holdings. And this, technically, the 8 crore shares that can come in for selling. And this 8 crore shares actually form 28% of the equity. Entire 8 crore may not come in for selling because they include long-term investors like Warburg, IFC, etc. So stock is down anywhere between 4 to 5% as we speak in trade today.
All right, thank you very much for that. That stock has been a big wealth creator. Its issue price was a price of about 358, and even after the correction that we've seen in the last few days, it's still quoting at 651. But let's move on. Nigel, you're looking at Tata Steel?
Well, Tata Steel, remember the numbers are expected to be very, very good for the past quarter. And also today we're seeing a bit of a short covering bounce and a relief rally on metal stocks on the whole. Over this weekend though, we had the sales and production numbers that came out of Tata Steel. And in terms of domestic sales numbers, they've grown up by nearly around 8%, while Europe as well as Southeast Asia, they're more or less flattish. And the management has said that higher ramp up at Kalinganagar, that's what's helping the sales growth in India. While in fact in Thailand, there was a maintenance shutdown, and that's why that's more or less flattish. That explains why the stock is holding with a gain of around 1.5% after a sharp correction that we've seen in the last month or so.
Okay, all right, Nigel, thank you very much for that. All the way back to Ekta, who's also tracking Fortis for us. And again, just like the previous stock, Ekta, here the first headline on Fortis seemed a little concerning, those qualifications that the auditors have issued. The stock is up 3–4%.
Well, there are two reasons why the stock is up. It's because there is some sort of relief that the audit report has now come out. The street was waiting and watching on whether Deloitte would actually finally, either qualify the numbers or not. Right now, they've submitted a qualified opinion on the numbers. They haven't reached a conclusion on the numbers because of the kind of ongoing investigations which are currently underway. But at least there is some relief that the auditor has provided a qualified opinion on the numbers. Remember that they had released an unaudited set of numbers earlier, and this particular audit opinion, according to sources, was quite important for the bidders as well as for the entire deal to move ahead. Yes, there are reports and there is a lot of speculation that there could be an open offer by IHH, which could probably, help in terms of the kind of interest that we're seeing for Fortis. So that is a separate issue, but it is also the fact that the audit auditor has finally come out with a qualified opinion, and the board is pretty much sticking to the timelines that they've provided the street post the conference call that took place, and hence there is that interest which is coming in now that maybe things are on track now.
All right, thank you, Ekta, for that. And the Shriram Group stocks, which were in the eye of the storm last week after guarantees given by the parent company to its group companies on account of the NCDs. Here's the latest there. According to reports, the Shriram Group may merge two of its listed non-banking finance companies. Okay, for more on that, we'll go across to Abhishek in just a bit. Before that, let's go to Anisha. She's going to give us a roundup of the other stocks that you need to have on your radar.
Hi Rima, good afternoon. Well, I'll start with GVK Power. That one is trending higher because the company has achieved the financial closure for its Navi Mumbai airport, and as always, Reliance Industrial Infrastructure as well as JCOP are trending higher on that effect as well. JCOP higher by around 8% and RIL also gaining around 4 to 5%. Moving on to JP Group of stocks because they are in focus as JP Associates seems to have bagged an order worth around 2,850 crores. So all the stocks like JPA, JP Power are all trending higher. Mart is also active in trade. The last time I checked, that one was up around 11-12%. And the reason perhaps is that brokerages like Jefferies are positive on the stock. Now they have raised the target price on the stock to 25.80 versus 22 per share earlier. They are saying that the company is a key beneficiary of rural recovery and the recent MSP hikes, and that's perhaps what is aiding the sentiment there. Moving on to TCS, something that you have been pointing out, the numbers are expected tomorrow. The dollar revenue growth is expected to be around 1.9%, but do remember that the stock has already gone up around 40% this year itself. So the room for disappointment is very little. Back to you.
All right. Thanks, Anisha, so much for that. Yeah, that V-Mart call, that's really working for the stock, 11-12% higher. Well, speaking of stocks that have been working in this market, we all know about the Graphite Twins, HEG and Graphite India. Caught up with the management of one of these companies in the morning. The rally has been near vertical over the last 1 year. So we spoke with Mr. Ravi Jhunjhunwala, chairman of HEG. He says that graphite electrode prices have moved up by 4 to 6 times from $2,500 per ton in the last 18 months, and they're likely to sustain at these elevated levels.
Our actual prices, let's say 18 months ago, was in the range of $2,300, $2,400, $2,500. All I can indicate is that the current prices, by current prices I mean the prices that we have realized in the last quarter and the prices that we are likely to realize in the next 2, 3, 4 quarters, is at least 4, 5, 6x.
All right, that's about HEG, and how I wish that I was in college, if not school. A precautionary holiday has been declared for schools as well as colleges in Mumbai by the Maharashtra Education Minister. But let's do a quick recap then of the top buzzing stocks. We've got Tata Steel, JP Associates, V-Mart, GVK Power and Infra, TCS, Dr. Reddy's, AU Small Finance Bank, Fortis as well as HEG. Get into a break then. Up next, inflows into mutual funds have fallen in the month of June. Data analysis when we return.
The mid-cap market is really building on the momentum now. The index is up well over 200 points. It's a strong breath as well. You've got almost 1,500 stocks in the green today, as opposed to just about 550 on the red side of the screen. So it's turning out to be a strong, strong day. Just a couple of other movers and shakers in the last few minutes. Adani Enterprises has started to move higher. We're seeing some buying traction on a CG Power as well. Lots of names on the upside. And some of the PSU banks are making a bit of a move. Let's see if that sustains or not. Allahabad Bank, Canara Bank, Bank of Baroda. So just look at some of these PSU names. They're all trying to spike to the high side of the screen. So that's the story so far on the market. Well, speaking of markets, let's talk about where the money is moving. Definitely doesn't seem to be really gushing into mutual funds. Market volatility seems to have had some impact on investment flows into MFs. Equity fund inflows are actually down 32% month on month for the period of June. Prashant is joining in to analyze these trends for us. Prashant?
Oh, the data for the month of June is absolutely sobering. Let's look at equity inflow into equity schemes, which is pure equity plus ELSS equity and arbitrage funds as well. You know, there is a 32% drop that we've seen in the month of June as compared to May. I mean, the number is halved if you just look at the monthly high in 2018. You look at the comparison with the all-time high, I mean, the drop is even larger. I'll get to those comparisons in just a bit, but it's a sharp drop. I mean, no other way to sort of put this. Look at the inflow into balanced funds where the drop is even sharper. I mean, you know, what, 1,400 crores, just under 1,500 crores in the month of June. And look at the December 2017 figure. The trend is clear. Inflows into balanced funds have been dropping very, very sharply. Look at the other equity ETFs. Here, there is a big jump in the month of June compared to the month of May. The reason is because we had the Bharat 22 ETF which opened up, the second tranche which opened up in June. This is lumpy. Remember, this gets so much attention because there is a discount which is offered by the government. It doesn't sustain in the next couple of months. We've not seen it in the first tranche of the Bharat 22 ETF as well. Let's now put all of this into perspective. The June number compared to, I mean, the all-time high, equity schemes, there is a drop of 60%, balanced funds, there's a drop of 85%. This is comparison to the all-time high. And you compare with the monthly average in 2017 and 2018, I mean, the drops look pretty severe there as well. So June, definitely a pretty sobering month in terms of domestic flows.
Yes, absolutely. With macro concerns on the rise on account of rupee depreciation, the hike in crude oil prices, there is a flight to safety. And plus, we've seen some minor upward revision in many of these fixed deposit rates by the banks and some investment in the small saving schemes by the government as well. But noted investor Vijay Kedia tells our very own Nigel D'Souza that he is fully invested at the moment. For good measure, he has added some advice for investors. Buy like a bull, sit like a bear, and watch like an eagle.
What is the most important point you look at? We look at, you know, the PE, EV upon EBITDA. Some talk about growth, ROC. For you, which is the most important among all these ratios that we talk about?
Now, to me, actually, concept is very important. So forget about the bottom line, forget about the top line. What is the growth in the company? The concept and the growth, which is very important.
Right.
So me, the most important factor in choosing an investment is actually the growth of that company.
Growth is top of mind. So I was looking at some of your holdings, and in the recent past, Everest Industries, that's something, you know, that people are interested in. You have increased your stake. I think now your holding is roughly around 5% odd. What would you term this? You know, you're known, sir, for this bottom-up approach, and maybe top-down as well fits for Everest Industries. So what would you term it as? Bottom up or top down?
Actually, I would say it's blending of both.
Okay.
There are hardly few companies listed in this space. Only 4 companies, I think 4 or 5 companies are listed. So, and I think stock is also, what I feel, I may be wrong also, stock is also cheap.
Okay.
And it's a blending of both, as you asked.
Just take a look at the last few years. The sector leader is something that doesn't grab your attention really. You look at maybe player number 3, player number 4 in a market. Case in point being a Cera Sanitary Ware or maybe even an Atul Auto. They were not leaders in the sector, but they were big multi-baggers for you. Run us through the investment thesis there.
It was very simple actually. When I bought all these stocks which you had mentioned just now, Aegis and whatever, Atul Auto and Cera Sanitary Ware, the biggest advantage actually was in my favor. That market was actually pretty bad that time because we had just come out from that coma kind of situation of Ketan Parekh scam and all.
Right.
So stocks were also very cheap at a throwaway price. So all these stocks were available at maybe a P of 5 or 6 and giving a dividend yield of around 5, 6 or 7%. And plus economy was also turning around.
Yeah.
And same case was there with all these companies. They were also turning around. So I got that advantage. So that is why all this become a multi-bagger.
Okay, all right. You know, the other space, Mr. Kedia, that everyone's talking about is the chemical space. In the last couple of years, and that's been getting a lot of attention. I understand that you did a lot of ground research. You visited China, you saw how the industry was shaping up there, and then you backed Sudarshan Chemicals, which, by the way, I think it's a 10-bagger from the time you bought it. Tell us, how does that go about? How important is ground research?
Why I zeroed into Sudarshan Chemical, because I was following this company for last many years, maybe for last 15-20 years.
All right.
So my initial stock was bought in 1992 or 3, a very small quantity, so which I held on to till 2014. And when I found that this structural change is happening in this pigment industry, you know, then I bought Sudarshan Chemicals. So I was lucky that I got the desired quantity also. So that actually played a bigger role in that.
Absolutely. And what about the chemicals industry? Most steam left?
Of course, I think specialty chemical, not general commodity kind of chemical and all. And pigments and all, I think India is actually going way ahead than China.
Broadly, I wanted your view on the SME space. If you could explain to all our investors as well out there, it was supposed to be a good opportunity. Of late, there's a lot of fear.
I'll tell you, I personally do not discriminate whether it is a small cap or mid cap or SME or main board. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
If I like the company, I buy in any platform. If I do not like, I can sell any stocks tomorrow.
True.
Last year, I was very much bullish on Karnataka Bank. At one point of time, I was holding 2%, as you know that. But somehow I was not comfortable because to me, peace is very important. Peace is more important than making money in the market.
True.
So. But I was not happy with the performance of the company. So I sold my Karnataka Bank. Similarly, I cut short my position into Aries Agro also.
Okay, well, no one's selling Karnataka Bank today. At least there are more buyers and sellers. That the one stock that Vijay was talking about, it's surging to the highs of the day. Karnataka Bank up 4%. Actually, banks in general are moving higher. We pointed out that trend earlier as well. A lot of your mid-cap banks, OBC, Allahabad, Canara, of course, bigger names like BOB as well. So banks are suddenly making a move. We will have to take a break on that note. But on the other side, we'll get in Ashwini Gujral as well as Prakash Gaba with some of the technical trading ideas for midday trade.